Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're back with Steins Gate. Last episode is devastating.
Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking to watch.
I think we have a lot of questions.
That's really fair. That's fair.
For some reason, like, the main one being, for me, is Mayori's death a fixed point in time?
Something that can't be undone.
No matter how many times Kiyoma is going to try to fix it, is it inevitable that it's going to happen? And if there is an outcome that he is able to save her, what would the cost be to the rest of the world?
We even speculated if, in order to save her, we would need to go even further back in time than what we've been able to last episode. Yeah,
we got the limitation of 48 hours, but is that even enough? Is including Suzuha the answer? Is like a lot of questions. We can go a lot of different directions from here, but man, it's I just wanted, we touched on it in the discussion last episode, but I just wanted to say, like, I love all of the characters in the show, and I'm so happy that we've had 13 episodes of like narrative and like writing to make me feel as awful as I do now, in regards to like I'm so like, it sucks. It's torture.
You set me up with this character that's this mad scientist that everyone says is delusional, and I'm like, just, here for the ride of them, talking in such creative language about time machines, and I'm like, yep, this is all so interesting.
Slice of life fun.
Not super consequences for their actions, maybe a little bit. It's not super tense.
We were turning bananas into jelly, and now
jelly bananas.
We're watching our favorite character in the entire show be hit with a train.
Yeah, so the last episode, I think, was a shocker.
Yeah. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Cool shot. It's raining blood.
Oh.
How many times has he tried? Think about it. He's been like sprinting too this entire time. He doesn't have a second to spare.
There's no such thing.
You know what's equally as like impressive as Kiyoma's like resilience here? How he's managed to survive each time as well. Because like, obviously he wouldn't be able to go back if he was dead or he was also killed. Is it like his ability to escape or Moeka and Cern's potential like needing of him being alive? Like, why hasn't Moeka just shot him too?
It makes you go back to the line in the text message of him being the Messiah. Like, what if it's fated that he needs to survive, and no matter what, he lives past this point?
I'm really excited for this episode. Sometimes, like, before an intro, if you already see like creative choices being made in like an artistic direction that are exceeding expectation, I'm like, oh my god, well, what's happening later? There's a shot that I want to go back to of when the trigger was pulled. That was...
And the glass was shattering?
Yeah.
I can't cry yet.
Yeah, you can. Holy shit. meeting up with Moeka beforehand.
What if they just take him? Maybe there's no need to kill Mayuri.
Okay.
FB.
Holy shit.
He didn't tell them to leave this time.
Mm-hmm. What's going to happen? What a shot. Don't have to do it alone. Oh, man.
He's not alone this time.
Oh, I'm so glad they got pizza this time. Dara's probably so happy.
So they're trying to change the circumstance.
And tell me what we just discussed. Okay.
Like a permanent lab member. Oh, that's so cute.
Think about what she had to do to even send him back. Yeah. You went further back. Kurisu's so observant.
いきなり解散ってメールなんかしてきて。
実はな、俺は5時間後の未来から来た。
は？何そのバカ。
何が私は多分信じるだ。
何勝手に言い出してる。
Come on, say it.
殴りたい。今一番欲しいものはマイフォークである。どうだ、マイスプーンはもう持っているからともな。これで俺を信じる気になっただろう。
そうね。あのマシンやっぱり理論通り。お皿お待ち。
Oh shit.
ある物事が起きる結果。
Oh, the sound of the marker on the whiteboard.
が存在する。死という結果の原因にはそこに至る直接的な病気や事故なんかが考えられるけど、ヒントは断言できない。っているのは直接的にはラウンダー。
Proximate cause.
本当の原因は違う。だからラウンダーが関わらなくてもマユリは死んでしまう。マユリが生まれたという原因がマユリの死という結果を導いているのかもしれない。
運命論じゃないかそれは。
この事件の引き金として説明できるような事柄のはずよ。
引き金。これが完成しなければマユリは。
待って、そのは危険よ。
しかし
マキセ・クリスの言う通りだよ。あなた、あんたの推理は大体合ってる。確かにタイムリープマシンがなければ救うにはたどり着かなきゃいけないんだ。
Worldline Beta.
1% の壁を越えてダイバージェンスというのはこの世界線がの数値を指し示す唯一の手がかりがこのダイバージェンスメーター。
ニキシーカンと作ったやつはいい趣味をしている。
作ったのは岡部倫太郎の。
What?
君は世界線を移動した時、世界線の記憶を持ち続ける力がある。未来の君が前の世界線と違うのかを数値化するメーターを作ったんだ。718なの。それが今の世界線。このロープみたいなもんなんだ。このロープは
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
いくつもの細い糸が集まって作られている。世界線が大きく変動して今いるアルファ世界線かセントを超えてベータ世界線へ移動すると
Over the 1% barrier.
さて、君たちはそっち使ってね。これだけで登るなんて無理よ。しょうがないな。ここで待ってて。
確実にプロだな。何か。
ほら行くよ。
Timing in the show.
Right?
So good.
大幅に結果が未来と異なる世界線。本来行き来する世界に大きな事件が起きて、その選択によってのような年がいくつかある。
Huh.
最近だと湾岸戦争が2000年、そしてタイムマシンが開発された。
Just massive events, you know, that completely changed the history of the world forever.
これってが起きるときならアルファ世界線からベータ世界線への移動が。
移動するんだ。方法は。
待って、あなたの正体を教えて。
Holy shit. Holy shit! What is happening?
2036年から来たんだ。私がタイムトラベラージョン・タイターだよ。
What? What? That was Steins Gate, one of the best episodes of the entire series. Holy shit.
I was really ready last episode. I was like, at the end of last episode, I was like, okay, Suzuha. I think I said we were kind of discussing what would be our next attempt at saving Mayuri and stopping Moeka's attack with CERN. My next step was getting Suzuha involved. We got Kurisu involved first, and then Suzuha listened in because she has been listening in to everything.
We have more information about Suzuha than Kiyoma does. You know what I mean? We have a different lens, a perspective of who Suzuha is and what she could be than Kiyoma. Therefore, wouldn't have made as much sense for Kiyoma to just go out of his way to interact with Suzuha.
Right.
There.
Like when you brought up during this episode that Kurisu is very observant of Okabe, in that same way, because of the angles that we see Suzuha and the actions that take place and the way that we can process the lines that she gives and when she gives them, we then are very observant of her.
Yeah.
To the point where we would have an inkling that maybe getting her involved would be helpful.
Yeah, and we have the skepticism that was the first few episodes too. Like, you know, that's combined with, like, everybody in the universe, like, is a character, right? They like are able to joke around, they're able to cosplay, they're like in this specific show. So if, like, of course it wouldn't be that like strange that Suzuha is talking the way that she is to somebody in the lab.
Right. I would say if I was Okabe, the only thing that I think majorly would have made me immediately reach out to Suzuha
The fighting
is because he retains the memory and he knows that she runs back in, knocks all those guys out, and then points a gun at Moeka.
Yeah.
I would want her on my team just at least
sure.
as bodyguard, even if I didn't think she was necessarily from the future.
I think you used a great term, though. Bodyguard. Do you think that's why she's here to begin with?
I mean, she has things in her possession that Okabe makes in the future, in his attempts at saving Mayuri. These are things that he made.
It's like the ultimate guide, right? Like, in the future, what relationship must Suzuha and Ocarine have in order to trust Suzuha enough to be the person to go back to do what is ever plotted out here, right? Like, that has opened up so many doors. Like, what in the future causes Suzuha to even come back here?
Right. I mean, we've gotten language from her about this teacher, if you will, this mentor type person that she thinks Okabe might possibly get along with. We remember that scene where they're in that alley by the vending machines and the helicopter goes over. I think that was the scene where she was talking about how she kind of learned some things from someone, that she had some type of mentor. And at this point, I'm thinking it's Okabe in the future. And that maybe he sends her back because if he is the center of attention, if you will, for CERN's attack, and so is Kurisu, then sending back his assistant, his protege, to kind of help fix things would probably be like a good move, right?
Yeah.
An outsider almost to the actual main group of people that CERN ends up attacking. It's not like CERN's like, but we also have to capture Suzuha because we know she came back. They don't know that. Moeka doesn't know who Suzuha is. CERN probably doesn't know who Suzuha is. So it would be smart for a future Okabe to use his protege and send Suzuha back with like a specific mission.
Yeah. God, I have so many. What does this mean for the original timeline? And when I say like original timeline, the timeline that Suzuha's from, like, what in Suzuha's life or world line, wherever she was present in, Kiyoma lived a life that got to a point that never included Suzuha, right? Like, if every episode of this show we've seen so far happened, but the only difference is Suzuha's taken out as a character, that would be the closest thing imaginable to what the original world line would be, correct? So every movement that Suzuha has made in this world line as John Titor and as herself has, I'm going to assume, have been extremely deliberate. What changes is she making? Like, in my head right now, it's like, okay, the original timeline that Suzuha's from, there exists the potential to time travel from Kiyoma's point of view and Kiyoma's like abilities and capabilities. And then there exists that of CERN, which apparently has something to do with Kurisu. There must have been, like, that future must not be going in a great way or the way that Kiyoma would like it to be going to motivate Suzuha's journey back here to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, we also have the aspect of Mayuri that sending Suzuha back to even become friends with Mayuri and way before Mayuri's death is also on purpose. But I don't think if we like try to think about if Suzuha has changed anything or majorly affected anything, the only person she's really had any substantial interaction with other than like verbal display of hatred toward Kurisu, but like Kurisu can just brush that off as like for some reason she hates me, is Okabe. And it also seems like she hasn't like overstepped too much in terms of like controlling the events. From what I remember, it seems more like she's a shoulder to lean on or someone to talk to when Okabe's like venting.
But why is that even a thing, right? Like,
maybe she's just there waiting for the moment to strike, or that she needs to strike. She's been like waiting in a way where she doesn't super affect things, and she's making sure the world line goes how she was told it would go, and the things that would need to transpire so that she knows when and where to be.
Yeah. But what there would I assume that like there's been contact between John Tidor and Kiyoma. Mm-hmm. The term Messiah was thrown around. That's a
forcing him to continue on this path.
Yeah, and potentially motivating him, right?
Even early episodes on message boards before they even were texting.
What killed his, like, what difference is she trying to make? In the original world line, does he give up easier? Does he not pursue it as hard as he should be? Does he not... Is he not told the term Messiah and that leads him to a different path, you know?
Interesting. Okay, so if we get on this kind of train of John Titor, Suzuha's John Titor, trying to motivate Okabe to actually make this time machine, from all the world lines that we've seen, the current ones that we've kind of been living in, for the most part, is the world lines where John Titor never wrote, like, basically a book and was never famous, but was on message boards and able to have contact with Okabe. And then we also know from the original timeline, the world line from, like, the first episode, John Titor had written a book of the theories, and that had inspired Okabe to even want to, like, go to this meeting where that person was presenting, and he was really into the idea of time travel from these books of, like, how have you not heard of these books? You know, when he first gets to a world line where John Titor didn't, like, write their theories.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean you've never heard of John Titor?
So does that imply that there were several different Suzuhas sent back to different world lines to do different things in hopes that one of them and their changes would affect and turn out the result that they were looking for? Because that implies that, like, Suzuha did different things as John Titor in different world lines, right?
Shoot. Maybe. Or Suzuha was sent back to a certain year and has been doing a similar time leap thing of trying different things, seeing how it happens. It didn't work out how she likes. Maybe she could possibly retain... I don't think she could retain memories between world lines.
No, it seems like an ability that...
I mean, she even specified in this episode, like, you have this ability. So she knows because she has that machine.
Yeah.
That he made. So she knows when the world line changes.
Correct. She is able to tell the difference. Okay. So, to give you what I'm thinking about currently is that in this episode that we just watched, we learn about, what's the term for it? The divergence meter, which measures the difference. In episode 10, we are given the same number. We are given 337187. That is the difference.
It written down. Oh, wow.
Yes. Why were we given that number in episode 10? Like,
it's a really good question.
I
like that you wrote it down because you were like, oh, this might be important, but, like, we have no clue what the context was.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no clue. Was it a part of an email? Was it a random number that popped on the screen? Like, in the countdowns of, like,
we had a lot of Suzuha this episode.
That's pretty cool that's an episode we had a lot of Suzuha in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not clicking for me. It's not popping into my head.
But it's also the episode that Suzuha said that she had the meeting with her father, right? Or was trying to, at least.
Oh!
No,
it's the number. We see in the cutscene, like, kind of edited thing of, like, time travel and time changing. We see the world line meter.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what it was. We just thought it was numbers that might be important, and that's the number that we see.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that's him changing. Oh, gosh.
So is that saying that put him on the world line that we are currently in and working through, right?
So him trying to have some type of impact on Suzuha's life ended him up on this world line that we're currently on.
It seemed like the D-mail was what put us on the world line that we are on now, right? Because like it was
the D-mail to what, follow her? Was it?
Do not give into your assistant's threats. Follow Suzuha. The D-mail to himself was the thing
that brought us to this world
to
line.
this current world line, which is super interesting.
So it's almost making sure they've created a connection with each other, Suzuha and Okabe.
Yeah. And when every single time that Okabe goes back in time, that has no effect on the world line. That just goes back in time on the current world line.
So that's so interesting. So we've been on this world line since what episode is this?
10.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. That's so cool. God, I love when shows like, when there's just details that really actually pay off. You know what I mean?
He was like, I love the design of this meter. And she was like, well, duh, you made it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, I had to figure out what that was. Now I can get back to the actual
everything
that happened this episode, right? Initially starting the episode, we had a shot of Mayuri as a jelly man.
Yes.
That was haunting.
Which is like, is that just a fear shot? Is that like when you're starting to watch a ghost show, like a like where they're going ghost hunting, they show you a bunch of really creepy, dramatic, fake shots at the beginning of the show? Was it to show us like that? No matter what? Yeah. Like even if you tried to send her back or something, she'd be jelly. I don't know. There's something like that. I think it fits with that word that Kurisu said, the fatalism. Yeah, like the line leading up to it, right? Like the entire world was conspiring to kill her, and then it was a picture of her as jelly. The last thing I would ever want to see is Mayuri as jelly. Yeah. Dude, I have to say, this is one of my favorite episodes in terms of, like, writing, but, like, oh my god, the storyboarding was so well done. It was so creative. I don't know who was in charge. There was this one shot that because of the timing that it was held, this, like, awkward silence timing that felt so just realistic. What about of them waiting for Suzuha to climb the rope and come let them in? Like, and they were just kind of like do 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 do, and it was so realistic and relatable. It was not like wasted time of emptiness. No. You know how they always say like you got to fill the air with something. You can't have like emptiness. Like no, sometimes silence is perfect for like comedy or to show like a relatability, a realistic aspect. It was so good. One of my favorite shots this entire episode was when... You said you wanted to come back to this. Yeah. It was when Mayuri got shot in the car towards the beginning. Mm-hmm. And the way that they depict it, this reminds me so much of Mob Psycho. Like, of like drawing the like outlines of the bullet hole and then it turns red. Oh my god, it's so good. It's a similar style to a couple episodes ago. I think it might have been episode 11 that he gets that text message in the grocery store or wherever he is, the store he's in, and he starts running toward the lab because he thinks Mayuri's gonna die. Yeah. It's that same very sketchy, taking away the color style. Yeah. I have so many questions about Moeka as of this episode because the formality or the informality that she has in regards to Kiyoma, or more specifically, Okabe-kun, and then Okabe Rintaro, right, has been captured.
there is that, like, closeness.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think that the possibility exists that all of that closeness was developed just by Moeka's relationship with this timeline's Kyoma.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Moeka also comes from a future where she has interacted with Okabe before.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised either if she's had interaction with him. She does it all for FB. I would say that, like, I mean, it's probably hard to be the person that has to plant themselves as, like, a double agent, especially if you know that, like, these are just innocent people who may in the future do something you don't like, but right now they're innocent. In that same way that Suzuha was, like, really hard on Kurisu, even though Kurisu didn't even do the bad thing yet.
Yeah.
And Moeka probably has that of, like, oh, these are all just young people. They're just having fun. They're curious. She doesn't have any animosity toward them. And she's having to kind of plant herself as a friend of theirs and interact with them in a friendly manner.
Yeah.
And so whatever this driving force is, her care for FB must be, like, the ultimate, like, thing that she absolutely needs in her life, that she will do anything for. And I don't think she necessarily enjoys doing what she's doing. It's a part-time job. What an interesting phrasing to that.
Is there any possibility that FB is Kurisu? Like, not for any name correlation, but solely because, like, okay, we know Suzuha's feelings towards Kurisu. We don't know if Moeka is communicating on her phone to FB existing in this current world line. And what was the one change this time around that at least began a change and a difference? Interacting with Kurisu herself.
Yes, and what is something that I believe Suzuha said to Moeka when Suzuha broke into the lab when Moeka and CERN came in? I think she said FB to Moeka.
Who?
Suzuha.
Said FB to Moeka?
I think so.
Really? Huh.
I have, like, I don't know, is this a mandala effect of, like, how I can imagine Suzuha saying this when she had the gun pointed at Moeka or something? I almost feel like she might have said that you're doing this for FB or something to do with FB back at Moeka. And I remember just kind of thinking, I mean, gosh, is my imagination just too good? I mean, sometimes I do worry that my imagination is just too good.
When did we get it?
It was during the break-in, the
what
first death of Mayuri, which I think is maybe it's 12, Dogma and yeah.
Burgosphere?
Mm-hmm. I think it was episode 12. And it was, like, the end of episode 12.
Yes, that it was.
That it was.
So, what about
If
Mayuri?
I'm not right, I'm gonna blame my imagination for this one.
Because Suzuha comes in the beginning of next episode.
I thought she broke in at the very end here. Oh, no, we get Okabe crying over the body, and then the episode ends.
So at the beginning of 13, Suzuha's acknowledgement of FB, if it happened, doesn't mean too much, right?
I mean, it could link up to your theory that Kurisu is FB and Moeka works for the future Kurisu. And that's why Suzuha hates FB.
Yeah.
Suzuha hates Kurisu. It could link up to that theory that you had just posed, and that's why I was saying it.
So, is there even any dialogue?
I think there is. Oh my gosh, if I'm just totally imagining things, it's gonna be so embarrassing.
No, it's fine. I do it all the time. 42.
Oh, she says
CRT. And that was the information that she needed to tell Kyoma and Kurisu to be able to...
Why do I think that she said FB to her at some point?
I don't know. But regardless, so if there is the chance, that, which is not a very big chance, that Kurisu would be FB, I think that, like, enough of, like, Kurisu being a part of the progression in this current episode would be an interesting like tidbit there.
She's involved in this. We do get admission and blushing on her end, on Kurisu's end, of like pride over her work and what she's been able to accomplish once she's realizing that the time leap machine does work.
Yeah.
So there is maybe a path or a future where CERN does take them as captives, and they use Kurisu's knowledge. She's the one that built this. Okabe's, yes, mad scientist, the one that brought the lab together, but Kurisu and her calculations and her knowledge are technically what built it.
Yeah.
And so she would probably be well used if she's being taken captive by CERN.
So, regardless of who FB is, if it is or is not Kurisu, the person who sent Moeka back, whoever FB is, their own mission seems to be extremely delicate as well, because they aren't going about it like, okay, let's just kill the person who's creating this, right? They are wanting events to happen that are derived from keeping these people alive and assumingly having them currently work more on the time machine or whatever.
Either for a future event that they want changed, so they want this brain power, or they need the future to play out how it does if this happens.
Yeah. Because during Okabe's, like, talking to Moeka, she's like, how do you know this? It's like, she doesn't want to give too much information to him that could potentially affect what he does in this world line as well. I'm left with the question of, if somebody stole the IBN 5100, and the IBN 5100 is crucial to have for the development of the time leaps and time travel, who stole it? Who has it now? If it isn't Moeka, if it isn't us, what party has it now that, like, that changed this, right? Is it just a coincidence that switching world lines left us without the IBN 5100? Or was that itself, like, manipulation and changing an event that happened? A butterfly effect that was, like, intentional.
Maybe in some instance Suzuha chooses to take it, if we're thinking that maybe she does a bunch of things in order to try to change some events in the future. Maybe, like, I mean, if there's one organization that's doing this and, like, into time travel, why couldn't there be others that are trying to steal from CERN and trying to also do similar things to Okabe that might also have more means than just an innocent guy with his own, like, delusions in his lab?
Yeah.
But more like a more other powerful organization.
So I want you to pay attention to, like, the specific dialogue and terminology that Moeka uses here, because we can try to make a guess at what's going on or what her actual job is. She uses the terms after giving, it could be even before she gave the reasons, but she used the terms that she was a rounder.
That was at the, I believe, almost the very beginning of Okabe's interaction with her here.
And that she's a rounder, and that this is part-time for her, and the term arc rewrite was brought up too. That's something we've never heard before, I don't think. And definitely, like, the name of that itself.
Like a story arc? Like you're rewriting how the story plays out? Is that, like, a creative way to say that?
Well, no, and that's what I think it could be. And I think that it's like two different bodies are trying to influence the past, which this entire series has been in so far, so that it ends up in the way that they want it to. And God, there's so much information. I don't know how that connects with, like, the alpha and beta lines, because that almost leads me to believe that there's, like, just a set two different variations. And how would rewriting this specific Kiyoma and get him to a certain point, how would that inevitably, like, change everything.
Mayuri's death. I mean, when Suzuha's bringing up the two lines, it's proposing that the beta line is a line where none of the world lines would have Mayuri's death in it. And so maybe Suzuha was sent back in order to achieve getting over that barrier.
Yeah.
And in making a future where Mayuri survives. But what if this current path that we're on, this current rope, if you will, of all the world lines, this alpha line, what if this is the one that CERN wants to keep? And so they don't want the possibility of... Because whatever happens once Mayuri survives in that beta is probably something maybe that they don't want. Okabe becomes powerful, I don't know, achieves something that they want the reputation for, the responsibility for, is able to undo their dastardly deeds and plans.
I like, more and more, it's like, currently I trust and love Kurisu. There are so many great moments in this episode that I'm about to talk about, but like, with that growing love, I had like so much growing skepticism for like what was the factor that led her astray. We now have confirmation that Suzuha isn't talking shit, right? And isn't just like
also playing up a kind of characterization.
Like, Kurisu had one of my favorite moments in this entire series, and that was when, in response to seeing the state of mind that Kiyoma was in, she played up her own mad scientist bit. I was almost like in tears. Like it was so...
It was really sweet.
And I loved it.
She was doing back for him something that he is always doing for her, which is purposefully playing up his mad scientist bit in order to show her that he's being sincere.
Yeah.
When he says certain endearing things to her, and also to make her feel a little more comfortable with like being vulnerable with him.
But then, just a little bit later, when we're talking and trying to diagnose what the issue is in regards to Mayuri's death, is it the cause of her own birth that fates her death?
Yeah.
There was something...
Death is own birth is my like little chicken scratch way to like write that down quickly.
The defining moment in this conversation, though, was when Suzuha walked in and for the first time, I think, ever, agreed with Kurisu. But it was a very interesting moment because before Suzuha had done it, I wrote it down based off of how Kurisu's character responded. Kiyoma treaded on the idea that the instance, that the cause was the correlation between the time leap being created. Kurisu was like, no. Like, right off the bat, Kurisu was like, no. And then Suzuha came in to agree with her. Was Kurisu being a little bit, like, defensive?
I think something that we've already kind of touched on is that in this episode, we get a very visual on her face show of pride over what she has been able to accomplish and create. We know of Kurisu's character that she has a unfathomable love of experimenting. Like, that is her thing. That is what she desires to do in her life. She doesn't want to change her past because she loves what she's been able to do in this scientific field and the things that she gets to think about and discuss and discover. And hypothesize. And now what she's created, it's like it's her child, if you will. Like, this is something that, I mean, who knows? Maybe, I mean, Okabe saying... You know, okay, in this episode, doesn't Okabe, like, reach to destroy it?
Yeah.
And she, like, runs there. I think that all of those kind of things that we're touching on in terms of, like, her pride in her work and her also, like, belief that she is smart. She, maybe not, like, cocky or conceited at this point in time, but she's very confident in her abilities, even though sometimes she talks like I couldn't accomplish that. No, time travel doesn't exist. It's not real. It couldn't happen. But all of those traits that we're getting in a more innocent light here, in a more sincere and realistic light, I could totally turn into something that could be on the side of evil.
Yeah. Like
later on.
Or like what the greater good is, or like whatever her mental here. I want to read the dialogue here.
And more morally gray.
Exactly.
Kind of area for Kurisu. Because
is it possible, this is Kyoma talking, is it possible that if this isn't completed, Mayuri would wait? It's like, it's dangerous to jump to conclusions. Like, I'm putting myself in a lens of more skepticism here because I really like Kurisu and don't want her to ever do anything bad.
Well, it's like she wants to avoid the possibility of her not creating this at all ever.
But then, like, the thing that, like, makes me doubt my suspicions, but also potentially reassures them is Suzuha's interjection.
But she could just factually what Kurisu is saying is correct, but that doesn't mean the intentions behind Kurisu saying it were innocent and genuine and factual. There could have been some motive or manipulation behind what she said. She doesn't know it's necessarily fact, but Suzuha does, because Suzuha came from the future. So Suzuha agreeing with her here is purely just on factual. Suzuha's not going to protect Kurisu's, like, emotional state or try to, like, her ego or whatever. She's just going to be like, okay, yep, that's a fact. Mm-hmm.
But it could also be, like, she's aware of what's going on right now and what future Kurisu could be doing and could have done. And because of that, if she responds and interjects here, she could keep a shorter leash on Kurisu and, like, more of a watchful eye by being like, okay, I know where she's going to end up, but I'm going to interject here so that, like, I can still be with them and kind of be in control of the pieces. Like, it's just an interesting, like,
it
point.
Seems like all of this, we need Kurisu to be involved, I believe, in order to get to this beta line. And so I think Suzuha was probably waiting to step in until the time that Okabe chooses to get Kurisu involved in Mayuri's death.
Yeah.
I think that might... Suzuha was aware of Mayuri's death before it happened, or at least was, like, ready for it enough to leave and then turn on the 42-inch and then come back upstairs. I'm sure if her mentor was Okabe, that was a major event in his life that she could go back to and know the leading events to it.
Yeah.
And so maybe she was waiting to get involved more, like, further, you know, in this way, in terms of divulging information.
Yeah.
Once Okabe and Kurisu are working together. Because we need Kurisu's smarts to get over to that beta. So it's almost like using Kurisu in order to achieve the thing that we want to achieve.
But also using Okabe, too.
The short leash kind of thing that you said.
Yeah.
Friends close, enemies closer.
The whole, like, idea of finding, like, crossing the 1% divergence barrier, right? Finding the moment that what? You're on the right... What's the term? What's the world line they're trying to get to? The beta?
Mm-hmm.
You must cross the 1% divergence barrier. The divergence number indicates the world line's location. And the only clue we have to what that is the divergence meter. What number are we looking for? Like, are we looking for 1?
For 1?
Like,
possibly.
That's a fucking ask, man. How do you even, like... What do you do here?
When they use the more smart talk, the more, like, time travel actual talk, I'm just like, yep, nodding my head, like, all these big cool words, divergence, like, yeah. I'm just here for it, like a little kid with my popcorn. I'm like, I'm not digesting everything that you're saying perfectly, but I think it sounds cool to my ears, so I'm just enjoying being here.
What is it going forward? Are we trying to make an event so big that it changes a world line? Are we going to be going to different timelines now with Suzuha?
Yeah, are we like, she has a backpack on. And I know she had rope, and maybe that's the reason for the backpack, but I don't know. It seems like she's ready to go on an adventure. So is that like the next step? Do we get in that time machine? Do we fix it? Do we go somewhere? I mean, when you said like, are we supposed to create a big event that switches? I'm like, please no, because some of the big events she said were like wars.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's not do anything too dangerous.
So just before we end, I just want to make sure I'm at some place of certainty.
Closure?
Suzuha's from the year 2036.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
She had told Kiyoma that in what year was World War III going to occur?
Oh, shoot. Somewhere around that, I think.
Yeah?
I think it was in the 2030s. Somewhere in there.
Maybe.
Maybe. But you know, we can't trust me because I thought Suzuha said FB for some... Who knows? Maybe I dreamt it.
Maybe.
Maybe I just like to imagine things a little too much.
Is the 1% divergence that like world that Kiyoma was in 70 million years ago with Maori?
Cool.
Oh, fuck.
Like
Divergence
crossover
1% written in...
Because I remember hearing it before, yeah.
Episode 7, I think. I have it written in too. Messiah, True Freedom Beyond It. It's all coming from John Titor when we learned all these terms.
I mean, now it makes sense that Beryl Titor is Suzuha's dad. I wonder if she chose the title John Titor on purpose. Like, if she was going back so far in time and, like, attempted to write a book and put it out there about time travel, maybe at that time that she time traveled too, she thought, like, having, like, a male... what's it called when someone has, like, a fake name when they publish their book?
Like a pseudonym.
A pseudonym. Maybe John Titor was, like, a pseudonym for Suzuha at that time.
Yo, this show is gonna be so fucking crazy to rewatch because even, like, going through my notes, like, I have written down in episode 7, Moeka's reaction to Kurisu, and I'm like, what was Moeka's reaction to Kurisu in episode 7? Like, you know what I mean? And that's the same...
And that's a time where we weren't even suspicious. And so, yeah, now it's like, I want to go back. I mean, I feel like this show has a lot of rewatch value. Mm-hmm. So that'll be an exciting trip when we're finally done with this current journey we're on.
Divergence 1%. True freedom lies beyond it. Within that, I guess, right? Being able to manipulate the actual flow of events in time rather than having to, like, live change to these certainties that happened. And God, this is... Alright, I'm, like, diverging into madness. There's 1% of my brain still, like, working.
I feel that. I relate.
My last, I guess, question is... Do you think that Kiyoma is truly the Messiah if it's coming from somebody who has as much credibility as Suzuha, a time traveler from the year 2036?
Okay. Suzuha, if we're going with the fact that Suzuha knows Okabe and Okabe's personality, certain language might be used in order to flatter him,
to elicit a certain response,
interest him further in discovering time travel. And if he's calling himself the greatest mad scientist ever, and Suzuha is aware of his personality traits, she would use certain language in order to communicate and elicit a certain response from him.
Also, just to make sure, like, do we know who was sending us the messages? Like the picture?
The creepy ones?
Yeah.
No. It wasn't Shining Finger, because we have Shining Finger's number. It was FB. It's my current guess.
Alright. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We hope to see you next time. I'm so excited to keep watching this show.